side or the song. And you know, sometimes I think about it, and I gotta watch so I don't talk too much because I like to talk. But I think of it, if you're in the proximity of awakened art, that's art that's created by artists that have sort of crossed some kind of a portal where they're able to really be present to themselves and witness themselves in varying degrees. But if you're in the presence of awakened art, that art has a transmission. You know, it has an impact, and I don't know where I was going with that, but I'll probably go back to it later. So I think that if you feel into that, I think you guys know what I mean. So. Oh, the board. She has to have a board. It's a security board.
She's been doing this a long time.
Little do I know.
Yeah. Did you already think?
No.
Well, we wanted to thank all of you first for coming tonight, and it's extremely special. Now, I'll get another one, but it's extremely special for me to be able to do something like this with my mom. This is the first time I've ever publicly shown my art, so I can't think of a better way to debut it. And so thank you all for coming. And I wanted to give just a special thanks to Dim Art House and Jeff and Christy and Joe.
Thank you.
But Dim is amazing because where else can you feel like it's a real community where you can call up someone and say, I've got this idea, we want to do it, and have their full support. So I think, you know, it's a service what Jeff is doing and what Christy and Joe are doing by hosting a space like this for emerging artists, for senior artists, for the community, for anyone that wants to show their work. And please, we have a donation container outside.
On the table?
On the
wine.
small table. There's a small table out there, as well as a mailing list if you want to be part of anything that my mother does in the future.
Yeah, the mailing list is periodically I offer groups, and periodically I do talks and guided meditations, which are experiences in their own right. And if you're interested in being in the know when that happens, you can sign up out there. Yeah, you know, my mom is the seasoned veteran, but I wrote something up. We'll see how much I stick to it or deviate. But I guess this is a statement about me, more or less, in my heart. Art is basically my first love, you know? And it was something that I pushed aside for a long time, in high school and college and beyond, because I was calculating what I thought had value. And what I saw in the world was that intellectual success, capital success, putting your head down and working hard had value, but not so much that making beauty did. So it took a lot of time for me to, a lot of reorientating of myself, disbanding of stories, and figuring out what was important to me for me to reconnect with art. And a few years ago, that was mostly through pen and ink work. It was extremely meticulous and, you know, like my father, but left no room for error. You know, very controlled,
and in a way rigid, and it was satisfying to me, but it wasn't very joyful. And it was just after taking another break, I basically stopped making art again. And last year, I felt the impulse arise, and I bought a bunch of canvases and a lot of paint, and I had a mantra for myself. And the mantra was, it's not about making anything beautiful. That it's not about the process anymore, but I just wanted, not about the product, but the process. That I wanted to see what it felt like to create again, but not feel any sort of expectation that I had to make anything worthwhile, which was limiting me. And what I found was that letting go of that pressure, and it's a mantra I have to repeat almost every single time I paint, and every single time I take a risk, is it doesn't have to be beautiful, it doesn't have to be anything. And I found that in that process of paint, which is liberating because you can rework it 1,000 times, you can constantly change it, it can keep transforming it. Eventually, I would find beauty in it. That's something that would speak to me, that I felt was beautiful, that I felt was a stopping point. So, at first, it was impulsive, and I would do whatever I felt like, throw whatever I felt like on the canvas, and then I realized that I could have an intuitive practice that also had patience. That I could stop and I could sit with a piece, and that instead of just me speaking to the canvas, I could also listen to the canvas, and I could have more of a conversation and wait for the impulse. And so I think that these pieces are intuitive pieces that are based on listening, but still that liberation of just going with what naturally just comes. It's almost like a download of inspiration. And since my intention is to move out of my head and into my intuitive body and into my heart, the only story I have about my work is reflective. It's what I realized I'm interested in and attracted to. Over time, I realized that there are themes to what I want to create, at least in this storyline right now, where I'm at in my life right now. And the themes that I find myself fascinated with are movement, balance, repetition, and kind of like innocent primordial forms. And you know, one thing I have is I've grown fascinated with the concept of a painting that can be seen from any angle, and I can show. So I find myself when I paint, I flip the canvas and I look at it from different perspectives, and just looking at it from a new perspective allows me to reconsider what I think balance is. And what I try to do is create a painting that doesn't have a top or bottom, because there's enough balance in the painting itself that it can kind of come naturally. So there's no signature on any of these pieces, because I like the idea that you can interact with the piece by, you know, how does it speak to you and what format does it speak to you best. And you might also notice that there's no form or color that's only one place on any of my paintings. Instead, it's again this idea of balance, like a scale, that there's an equilibrium to everything, and that when it's taken in as a whole, there's nothing that stands alone.